Okay. Welcome to DES-113 Typography. My name is Bill Sweeney. I'm your instructor. And tonight, this is our first live session. And I just wanted to announce that I should have a number of announcements I'd like to actually go over here. I'm in announcements right now, and I just wanted to point out that there's a number of announcements in here that I've made for you. One of them is just a welcome announcement. The others are, for instance, I have some links for you. I talk about the value of classic typography in one of my announcements. And then some additional links that give you some information and background as to how to approach typography. There's also some links and some information about formatting text, which is part of what we're going to be doing tonight. And then I have more helpful links for formatting typography. I announce your learning coach, Wanda Bryant, and I give a history of Helvetica. I did Helvetica because there's a history of every single font in here, but I wanted to show you what a Google search of the history of Helvetica looks like. So what this is basically, it's me doing nothing more than a Google search on the history of Helvetica. So theoretically, if you wanted to choose another typeface, another font, all you'd have to do is type in the history of whatever the font is, Bodoni, whatever the font is, and you'll search Google and you'll get tons and tons and tons of sites that talks about the history of the particular font that you're searching for. Obviously, that's going to help you in week one's assignment. Week one's discussion, which is basically picking one font and talking about the history and the background and the features of that particular font. I did mine. You can take a look at how I handled mine. And just so that you understand, I handled mine in very similar fashion to what I'm showing you here, History of Helvetica. I basically went in and I did some online research about it, and I wrote a number of paragraphs about the history of the font that I chose. And you'll do that as well. The other thing for you is the multi-level session schedule. Tomorrow night, I do a multi-session. What that is essentially, it's for you to come in and meet with me and work with me on anything that you might need help on. That also will include other students, possibly, from other classes coming in, and they will also be perhaps getting some help. The other thing that I did is I also included in this information about my Wednesday and Friday and Saturday schedule in Blackboard Learning Center. I work in Blackboard Learning Center every Wednesday night from 7 to 11 p.m. Mountain Time, Friday mornings from 9 o'clock until noon Mountain Time, and on Saturday nights from 7 o'clock until midnight. So I have that information in here. I really am not going to go specifically through this because I only got 2 hours tonight, and I want to go through as much of the assignment and the assessment as I can. That's the most important thing for me to do. These other things, I think you can you certainly can figure out how to go through these announcements. The other thing that I'm going to do is go into the discussion very quickly. I'm not going to go through this in great detail. Again, I believe you can kind of figure this out. Week one discussion, the value of classic fonts, okay? And if you noticed in my announcements, there was an announcement on classic fonts, and what that does is it gives you information and background that'll help you with this discussion, the value of classic fonts. And obviously, what we're going to do here, I'm not going to read this whole thing for you, but for this week's discussion, let me move my ugly face out of the way here. For this week's discussion, as a matter of fact, you know what? Let me close this. I've done enough of this. Let me close it. Here we go. And stop video. There we go. Okay. For this week's discussion, you'll be researching one of the following classic type typeface families. So all you're going to do really is you're going to pick one of these. I'm pretty sure the one that I wrote about was Helvetica. But there's Garamond, Caslon, Times New Roman, Baskerville, Bodoni, Dido, Clarendon, Helvetica, Futura, and Gill Sans. My assignment, I did Bodoni because I felt Bodoni was a fun font to work with when I created my face. I did a face, and that's the assignment for week 1. I thought after looking at all the fonts, the Bodoni was the one that I thought I'd have the most fun with. And I was right. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm going to work on that shortly. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to be researching one of these, pick one that you want, and then you're going to talk about it. Research the history of one of the fonts, how it's been used in prominent commercial ways, branding, advertising, packaging, study the font carefully, pay attention to its features. Now, again, a lot of the information that they're talking about here, like attention to its shape and features, are discussed when you go and do a Google search like I did on Helvetica. You're going to find a lot of that information right in there. So what you could do is you could literally, take some of that information, put it into your own words, and put together a discussion about this. Find out if there are different versions of the font and more recently designed substitutes or modifications. Many of these fonts have been redesigned. Why? Because they have been digitized. And when they become digitized, what happens is designers take certain liberties with them to try to modify them slightly so that they present themselves a little bit better on screen. On screen is significantly different than print. That's something that you should know about. The name of the font, its designer, when it was created, again, you could easily find that information when you do your search. Embed a screenshot of a commercial example you found in your post, and you can certainly find some kind of a screenshot of the font that you could put in there. And then you can tell us why you think the font was chosen for the job. I mean, there are a number of reasons why fonts get used for specific jobs. And to be honest with you, I'm sure you'd be able to find that in your search as well. I did. In your post, be sure to also cover the following aspects. Define its classification, at least 5 features of the font. And again, you'll be able to find this information if you do the proper search. It shouldn't be any problem. How was the original design of the font influenced by art, design, and technical movements? Each one of these fonts come from a very specific time in history. And there's art influences, design and technical influences. That will all be discussed when you do your search. Just mention a little bit of it and you'll be fine. What specific purpose did it have? What changes or new visions of the font, if any, have been made in recent times? Well, again, I can tell you right now, changes, new versions, well, they have been redesigned for the web. Every one of those fonts have been redesigned for the web. So there is a new version and a rationale for changing the fonts so that they can be updated and utilized on screen, which they're going to probably need to have a little bit of modification done for that purposes. Okay? For citation, you might use articles that cover the history and uses of your font. I mean, you just write a citation. You can literally take one clip or snippet of information from one of the sites that you think is relevant to your topic and put your citation in. Be sure, though, that you title your main article and make sure that you do use citations because I will be looking for them. Your initial and reply post should work to develop a group understanding of this topic. And again, you have you have one primary post by Wednesday and 2 secondary posts, one on one day and one on another day. So ultimately what you're trying to do is at least 3 posts. One will be your initial post, which is your discussion, and then the others are either challenges or discussions with the other students talking about what they posted. All right? And then also how to embed an image in a discussion. Here's how that's done. How to upload a file to a user group. Here's how it's done. And then, of course, you got your requirements right here. And if I believe, let me see here. Yeah, so they're actually showing you a couple of samples here of what, they're actually PDFs of what a discussion would be by a student. I'm not going to look at them. I'm not going to go through this in any more detail than that because my time is very limited and I want to get to work. But I do want you to I just want to say to you, whether you're working on your discussion, whether you're working on your assignment, whether you're working on your assessment, please read the instructions carefully. Make sure that you understand the instructions. If you have any question about the instructions, you can bring it up to me tomorrow night in multi-session, or you can email me and I'll try to clarify it for you, or you can see me in Blackboard either Wednesday, Friday, or Saturday, and I will be glad to help you understand a little bit better. But it's very important that you read the instructions carefully and understand what you're being asked to do so that I can give you the best grade that I can possibly give you. With things left out, if things are left out, the first week I may show you a little bit of leeway. Like for instance, if you don't have the proper titling on a discussion post, I may not knock points off, but I will point out to you that you did not put that titling into your discussion post. And the next week, if it's not there, if you don't change it, if you don't fix it, I will deduct points. So I'm just trying to say it's very important that you read carefully and understand you're in a 100-level course. You're going to go through 200-level course, and I think even 300-level courses before you get out of the school. And you're going to be doing similar things each week. You have got to put together a proper plan of how you do these things. Other instructors are going to expect you to do the same thing that I'm telling you to do here. Okay? So I hope you understand. So I'm going to go to the assignment first. And again, there's information up here in the assignment that I am not going to read. I'm going to let you read all this, okay? I'm going to get right to the prompt. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because I only got 2 hours with you. If I get done looking at my 2 assignment and assessments that I'm going to work on for your benefit, then perhaps I'll come back and look at this a little bit more in depth. But the important thing is that I at least explain to you what the assignment is and show you a little bit about how it's done. I've done every assignment that I have to teach, and I will try to show you as much as I can about it so that you at least have some familiarity with what's required to make this happen, all right? So that's really my goal here. So for this assignment, you're going to create an abstract portrait illustration of the typeface you research in your discussion. What that means is you're going to create a little cartoon character, and you're going to use different characters from your typeface to create your character. This may not make any sense this second, but when I open up Illustrator shortly and I show you what I did and I start building it again for you, it'll all make sense, okay? So you're going to create an abstract portrait illustration, cartoon, whatever you want to call it, using the typeface, using the characters from the typeface. That's the first thing. So the assignment instructions. This is a list of classic fonts you have to choose from to research for week 1's discussion. So you got the listing here. This is the same fonts that you're doing your discussion on. You're going to pick a font, okay, and you're going to talk about the font. Now, I picked Helvetica for my discussion. That's what I did my discussion on. However, I then turned around after looking at all the fonts. I checked them all out. I made a decision that, for me, the one that I thought would be most fun to do my face in was the Bodoni. So I chose Bodoni to do my face. and you'll see that shortly. So what you're going to do is you're either going to pick one, or you can pick more than one. I don't care. If you want to pick one to discuss with, you know, do your discussion with one like I did, and then you want to pick another font for your face, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. As long as you are working with the fonts that are suggested here, I am cool. And it's the same thing with your discussion. When you do your discussion, please choose one of these fonts. All right? Now, let's get into the specifics of what you got to do here. So from the fonts, and again, you can go back in and look at this all you want. Make sure you understand it. I'll do my best to explain it to you before I actually go in and do it. From the fonts listed, look up the font you research so you can see all of the characters. You're going to look this up. You're going to go in. You're going to open up your character panel in Adobe Illustrator, which I did, and I'll show you. And you're also going to open up your what is it called? The glyphs panel. So you're going to open up your character panel and your glyphs panel. That's all I'm going to say about this right now. I'll talk about glyphs and character panel a little bit later on in this, but that's what you need to do. You're going to have, this is primarily, the type will be in black, so you don't have to worry about color. You can scale the thing, so you'll find a way to scale it on your toolbar. I'll show you how to do that. But what you're going to need is your character panel, and you're going to need your glyphs panel to do this project. Pretty much nothing else at this point, okay? So you're going to study all the characters of the font in the character and glyphs panel. And while you analyze the different shapes and forms of your chosen typeface, you consider how the lines and shapes and weight of the letter form affect its personality and use. Is it old or young, male or female, compliant or domineering, elaborate or simple? Try to capture qualities in your face that you create. So again, my feeling about Bodoni was that it's kind of an elaborate face, and it is kind of a unusual face. So my character is kind of unusual and a little bit on the elaborate side. You'll see what I'm talking about shortly. If you would like to focus on one specific style of the font, medium, condensed, bold, italic, for example, you can do so. I did that. I decided that I was going to go with the bolder font, and more about that shortly. But you can, instead of using all the different weights and everything, and I'm going to show you when we get into Illustrator that there's a bunch of different weights with some of these fonts. You can do so, or you can keep it more general and use any or several fonts. So you can make it specific, maybe bold or bold italic, or you can keep it more general, in which case you'll use a number of different fonts together. It's totally up to you. Creativity is your call, not mine. Just as long as you follow the rules that are written here, I'll be happy. So here are the guidelines. Here are the specifics, so to speak, all right? Use Illustrator. Got to use Illustrator for this. You're going to set up an 8.5 by 11 document, and they want it portrait oriented. Since I'm the instructor, I set mine up to be landscape, but you should do yours portrait oriented. You can only use characters from one chosen font, your chosen font, including glyphs. Now, this right here is a link that you click on. It'll talk about glyphs. Okay, so you might want to just click on this, but I'm going to show you where to find the glyphs so you don't have any problem. And I'm going to kind of explain it in a few minutes when I get into Adobe Illustrator. So hopefully this will help, but you'll already have some idea after you see what I do. Use the shapes of the characters, create stylized features of the face. So that's what you're doing. You're using the characters from within the font to create the stylized features of a face. It sounds like weird, but in a minute you're going to see it's very doable. It's something that's doable, and it's actually fun. This is, if you're in the right state of mind, a very fun project to do, and it is creative, and it gives you the opportunity to use your creativity, which is one of the things that I really want to see. You can experiment with the angle, front-facing, profile. So in other words, they're saying, you know, you got somewhat freedom here. You can do whatever you want to do as long as you come up with something that resembles a face. Do not use type on a path to create lines. That's not what they want. What they want you to do, or fill areas of type as texture, they don't want that. What they want is they want to see how you manipulate individual characters to create a face. Okay? For this assignment, you are to use the shapes of the letter form to act as lines and shapes of your illustration. So you're using the shapes of the letter form. The letter form shapes themselves should suggest elements of the face. And again, shortly, I'm going to show you what I did, and it will become more, I think it'll become clearer to you once you see that. They don't want you to distort or stretch the letter forms in any way. What that's saying is they don't want you to distort them or modify their basic shape. That doesn't mean you can't make them bigger or smaller. You can make things bigger or smaller. Just don't distort or warp them in any way. They should, in the end, be the proper letter form. It should be the proper letter form. Do not distort it. You can make it bigger or smaller as you want. Don't distort it. Use black and white only. So basically, white means you're going to be using the background white. The page is white, and the fonts, the type itself is going to be in black. Below the portrait, type out the name of the typeface of the chosen font and arrange it neatly on the page. Save the native Illustrator document and the PDF version for submission. So basically, in the end, you'll end up with an AI file, and then you're going to create a PDF, which is what you'll ultimately submit to me. Now, here's a tip, and this is very important because I think this helps immensely. And as a matter of fact, it's what I do. I create outlines of the type. It will help you select, size, and rotate each letter form more easily. Remember, don't distort the letter form. Hold the Shift key down when resizing to keep its aspect ratio intact. So in other words, you don't want to distort the aspect ratio of the font. When you make something bigger or smaller, hold down the Shift key when you do to make it proportionately enlarge or reduce its aspect ratio correctly. So create outlines, okay? And then, of course, down here is submission instructions, all right? I'm not going to read them. Yeah, and then they talk about best practices. The only other thing that I would do here, and I don't know that you really need this, they do have a couple of samples to show what will give you a good grade. However, I'm just about to go in and show you mine, and I'm going to actually build mine. So really, once you see what I'm doing, I mean, again, you can download this and take a look at it. There's no problem with that, and take a look at what they're doing. But I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to work on mine now, and then again, as I say, you can do yours. All right? So I hope that's clear for you. Just keep in mind that you can go in and you can read this whole thing. Make sure that you understand what you're doing before you do it. So here are my two characters that I did using the characters from Bodoni. So I don't have enough time to do both of these things tonight because I also want to go in and do the assessment tonight. So what I've decided to do is show you what I think is just enough to get it so that you can do this assignment. Now, the important thing is that when you open this up, you have over here, you have your fill and your stroke chips, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have no fill. So I make sure that my fill is forward, and I click on the None button, and now there is no fill, okay? Now, I also want to make sure that I have a black stroke. So I bring the stroke forward, and I don't change it. I just leave it at its default, which is black. So now what I have is I have a stroke of black, and I have a fill of white, okay? And actually, now that I think about it, I'm working with text. I apologize. That I have to reverse it. What I really want is I want a fill of black. Yeah, we're working with text, okay? I want a fill of black, and I want no stroke. That's what I want, okay? So make sure that you have a fill of black and a stroke of none, all right? Because you're going to be working with text, not lines. All right, so there we go. Now, the other thing that I did was I have three panels out here. I got my layers panel, I have my character panel, and I have my glyphs panel. if you want to get your layers panel, if it happens, now normally when you open up a default Illustrator file, there's going to be a bunch of panels here. You can shut all those panels. And how you shut those panels basically is by just clicking them and dragging them out and clicking the X button just like that. Okay? Now, I just put away a panel that I want. So in order for me to get that panel back, I go to the window menu, okay? And I'm going to go to layers. That's the panel I just put away. And I click, and there's my layers panel. And then I can take that layers panel and I can put it back in here. And now I have my layers panel, I have my characters panel, and my glyphs panel. Now, if your layers panel and your character panel are not out when you open your default document, or when you open Illustrator, I really should say, you find the layers panel here under Windows. You also find under Windows Type Character. So that is where you go to get your character panel window, Type Character, okay, and window layers. Now, there's one other font. There's one other panel right here. That's the glyphs panel. If I go to the window menu and I go down to type, you'll see that there is no glyphs panel in here. Oh no, I'm sorry. There is a glyphs panel. There it is. So I can get the glyphs panel there. Okay, but I can also go to the type, and it's right there as well. Glyphs. So you can either get the glyphs panel here, or you can get it under Window, Type, Glyphs. Those are the three panels that you want to have open. Now, the reason that you want to have these open, well, actually, you don't need this open as much as me because I've actually got a tracing layer here. So actually, the layers panel, now that I really think about it, isn't all that important for you. You could probably just ignore that. The ones that are really important are your character panel right here and your glyphs panel. Now, what you're going to do with these is you're going to open up your character panel and you're going to choose your font. You're going to type in whichever font you want to use. And of course, you know, what I'm talking about, we go back to the assignment, is we're talking about this. What we're talking about is this, one of those fonts. One of those fonts, okay? You're going to use one of those fonts. You probably have many of those fonts already on your computer, okay? You can also try to go into type here. You can also go into, let's go to character. Let's go to here we go. You can also go into Typekit, and you could see whether you could get some of those fonts from Typekit if you have to. But some of these fonts you're going to have in here, and you could use those fonts. Now, I chose Bodoni. The reason I chose Bodoni partially is because it looks interesting. It's an interesting font, and it makes a great face. I mean, I really think the faces I came up with are pretty good. But one of the things that I liked about Bodoni is this. It has a whole bunch of different family members to the font. I mean, it's got a poster compressed, it's got a condensed italic, a condensed bold italic, a regular, an italic, a bold italic, a black, and a black italic. It's got all these great different variations. So if I wanted to use all these different variations, I could very easily, and I'd get all kinds of different weights of line, okay? I chose to go with just bold because after looking at the bold in the glyphs panel, which is where I got most of my stuff from, I felt that it gave me a lot of fun things to work with. So that's what I chose. Again, you have to make these decisions. So I'm going to get out of here for a second, and I'm going to go to the glyphs panel. Now notice that I have Bodoni MT selected bold. There it is. There's my Bodoni MD bold. Now this is what is the glyphs panel. What they are is they're a bunch of extra characters and things that go along with the standard font family that you find here in your characters panel, okay? So you got it in here, and if you look at your keyboard, there's all the stuff on your keyboard that's in that font family. The glyphs panel give you a bunch of options that you can double click on, or I don't even think you have to double click on. I think you just click on it one time, and it'll come out on your artboard. Okay, so these are all the different things that are available as glyph characters, and I chose this one because I thought this one has got some great stuff in it, and I made a really funny face using this stuff, and I'm going to show you how I approach doing that. Okay, all right, so here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to leave the glyphs panel out. The glyph panel is going to stay out because I'm going to be working with the glyph panel. Now, all I do to get started on this is I started looking at the different shapes, and I started thinking, what shapes could I use to make a face? And you know, again, I've got a number of different characters in here that I've identified and I've pulled out and I've combined them to make this face. The basic way to do this is to get your type tool and come out and click to place your type. That type to me looks like it's a little bit on the small side. So what I would probably do with this is I would go to the character panel and I would change the size of this to maybe, well, let's see, 72. I'm going to go to 72. Yeah, 72 is pretty good. So I made it 72. Then what I'm going to do is, you notice how it's selected. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start off by clicking that. Okay, so now I have that character right there. All right, now what I think is, actually, I think that character might be, let me just see something. That might be that character. Nope, it's actually the same character. All right, so what I might have done with this, I might have actually used a lighter weight on it. Let me just see if I did. Let's go to regular. I did. I used regular on that. Okay, so there I did. I did use a different font. I used regular on this one. Okay, so there's one of my little characters that I've used. And as you can see, I've used it here. I've used it here. I've used it for his cheeks. I've reduced it, and I've used it for the little jowl area. I've made his shoulders out of it. So this is a character I use a number of times. Now I also have this little sprig of hair that stands up here. And if I go through my glyphs panel, there is that character in here somewhere. It's right there. So what I would do again is I'd take my type tool and I'd click, and then I'd double click, and now I have that character. All right, now what I'm doing is, before I actually begin playing with this, what I'm doing is I'm pulling out a number of these characters so that you can kind of understand where I'm going with this. And then I'm going to outline all these characters, and I'm going to start building this face. All right, so I got a bunch of other stuff that I'm going to work in the direction going down. So then I got these two areas of hair here, and I'm using a fancy bracket for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my type tool again. I'm going to click to place my cursor, and there's a fancy bracket right there. Double click, and now I have my fancy bracket, or one of them at least, and I'm going to use that again several times. I have this hair that kind of goes like this, and if you look around in here, there's one of those characters somewhere in here. I'm not exactly sure just where, but it is in here, and if you'll let me see for a minute, I'll see if I can locate it. It is there. This is quite, there it is. It's right there. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and place my cursor, and then double click, and there is that one. Now that one looks to me like I used a bolder version of it. So let's go to bold. There, I think that is bold what I used. Maybe not. Maybe it was regular as well. Let me see. Go to regular. What would that be? Would that be regular or bold? Bold. I think it's, I'm going to say it's regular. I do. I want to say it's regular. So I think I'm going to stay with regular on this as well at this point. And again, it doesn't matter all that much. I mean, I'm going to copy this. It's going to look fairly similar when I get done. All right. Now I got the glasses. I got the ears. I got the nose. I got the mouth, the chin, and then this collar. So I still got a couple of more characters to go after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my cursor again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue going down, and what do I see here? All right, so I see my eyes. My eyes are made up of a circle, a couple of lines, and a couple of dots. All of those characters, believe it or not, are in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find them. So I'm going to scroll around in here, and I see my nose. There's my nose right there. Let's see if I can find my, whoops, I'm hitting the wrong thing here. Grab the wrong thing. Let's see if I can find my glasses. The glasses are where? I think I got to go up. Oh, wait a minute. I got to go to bold. That's what it is. Yeah, let me go to bold. The thing I'm looking for is in bold. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so let me go and find that. It is where are you? It is, now I know I saw it. Where were you? I know I saw you. Let's try black. I know I saw you. No, I'm pretty sure it was in bold. But I know I saw it. It's not something. I know I saw this thing. Go back one more time and try it. Interesting. Now I'm not finding it. That's odd. All right. Well, I have another way that I could do it. I could take the circle C. There. And I could use the circle C. So we'll leave that for the moment. I can use the circle C. But somewhere in here, I swear, there is that circle. I know I saw it. I'm not seeing it now for some reason. It's like being snowblind. I'm just not seeing the thing. All right, so I need to get my nose and my mustache. So what I'm going to do is, again, take my type tool, click, and then I'm going to double click on that, and there's my nose and my mustache. What's left? I think my chin. All right, so I'm going to create a little bit of text for the chin. Okay, and the chin is this guy. Let me go down to find that. That is right there. Double click, and there is my chin. All right, and then what's left? My collar and my tie. So what did I do for my collar? Let's see. Oh, and by the way, the ears. Yeah, let me do the ears. Let me just get the ears. Okay, so the ears basically are a question mark. So I actually can get that right from my keyboard by holding the Shift key, and there's my question mark. All right, and I think in the case of the question mark, instead of using bold, I think what I used was regular. Let's see if that's true. Let's go to regular. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, there it is. So these are pretty much all the characters, the dots and the line. Okay, so let's see. There was a dot. Oh, I gotta go back to bold. Now let's find the dot. I see one, but I think there's another one. Let me see if there's another one. There it is. It's right there. Okay, so that's the dot right there. So I'm going to, again, set my type, click, and then I'm just going to double click, and there's my dot. Okay, so I have my dot. Now, the only thing I need the line. There's a line. So I'm going to, again, click, place my text in here, and there's a line somewhere. Let's find the line. See, this right here. Okay, the dashes, actually. So I think I used a longer dash. There we go. Yeah, so I used a longer dash, and actually, let's go edit, undo, and let's see what the smaller dash looks like. I think the smaller dash is actually better. There's the smaller dash. Now, the only thing I think I need to finish this guy is I need that triangle, and let's see if there's the triangle right there. So I'm going to click on my type like this and double click on the triangle, and there's my triangle. And is there another one? Because it looks like the other one's a little different. Actually, let's see. I got this thing here. That might be what I used. See, I did this a while back, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think I might. Let me just quickly look before I do this. All right, let me go through it a little bit more. Let's see. Probably it. I think it is that guy right there. There. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I can close this up for the time being, all right, and put it back. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I have all the symbols that I need to create that face. Now I want you to look at this. Each one of these symbols, each one of them is what's known as active or live type. You take a look. Each one of them has that little line underneath it with that little anchor point right there. Each one of those has it because each one of them is basically a piece of active type. Now, the problem with this is it's kind of difficult for me to manipulate these things as active type. And I don't need to change these characters anymore because, frankly, I'm going to be using them creatively to make a face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a process by which I create outlines. Oh, and I see one more thing. I have one more thing right here. I'll get that later, though. Okay, there's one more thing I need in here. All right, so anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these characters. I'm marqueing them, okay? Just dragging through all of them, selecting all of them by marqueing them. They're all selected right now. I'm going to go to the Type menu. I'm going to go down to where it says Create Outlines. And when I do that, what happens is these things are no longer live type. Now, basically, what they are, they're graphic shapes. They're graphic shapes of the type elements, but they're graphic shapes. They're going to be easier for me to manipulate now that I have them as graphic shapes. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. So the first thing that I want to do is I got this circle C here, and I want to just get the circle part of it. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to get my direct selection tool. If I go in here, I got the group selection tool and the direct selection tool. And I have this thing called a tear out. And I can do this where I can tear the thing out and move it over here. If I click on that group selection tool, you have two elements in here. You got the C and you got the A. And if I'm careful about this, see, I can click and I can select that C, which is a part of that circle C. And if I hit the delete key, I now have that circle, but I've gotten rid of the C. And that's going to help me make my glasses. Okay? So now that I have this done, I can begin the process of building my character. How I do this is I take this guy right here and I go edit copy, edit paste, and now I have two of them. Where's the other one? Here it is, right here. I got two of them. I'm going to come over here with this. I'm going to rotate it, use the rotate tool to just rotate it around, and I'm going to get it in the approximate position that I want, which is about like that. I'm going to move it into position and keep rotating the thing until I get it laying down the way I want it to lay down, which is something along the lines of that right there. Okay? Now, if I want to make this real easy, because this thing, now let me go to the View menu. Let's go View, and let's go Rulers. Let's go Show Rulers. Show Rulers. If I come out here and I drag a guide out, I can put a guide in the middle of the guy's face, right about, well, I guess it was right about there. Okay, so I have a guide down the middle of his face. Now, the reason I do this is because if I build one side of his face, I can then flip it and build the other side of his face from the same elements, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build parts of his face on one side, flip it, and duplicate it to make the other side, saving myself a little bit of work. I can't do it with every single element, but I can do it with all the elements that are independent over here. Like I can do it with these little sprigs of hair. I can do it with that glass, the eye. I can do it with that line right there. I can do it with the question mark. I can do it with those lines and all of this stuff. I can't do it with the little mouth, but I can do it with many of these elements on this side. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I come in here. I'm going to click on this thing, bring this over here, okay? And I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Let's rotate the thing around a little bit like that. So it comes in like that, and then I'm going to move it into position, something along the lines of this. And what I also might do with it is I might also free transform it a little bit. Now remember what I told you, when you scale it or free transform it, you got to hold the shift key down because you want to keep it constrained. You want to make sure that you have the shift key down so that when you bring it down, it constrains it like that. Okay? That's what I did. I just constrained it. There it is. Now I'm going to go edit copy, edit paste in place, and then I'm just going to move it down a little bit like this, move it down, and I'm going to rotate it again rotate it around a little again, a little bit like that. And then I'm going to move it over until it's in more or less the position that I want. And again, it's not exactly where I want it, so I keep fooling with it until I get it where I want it. Then I'm going to, again, click this, hold the shift key down. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, like about like that. Let's see what we got. There we go. That's actually pretty good. Again, I'm not trying to make this exact. I'm trying to make it close so that you get the idea. That could probably be a little bit better. I mean, a little bit bigger. So I'd hold down, for this, I'd hold down the shift and the alt key, and that will make it a little bit bigger and leaving it in the same position. And that probably is a little, there we go. That's good right there. Okay, so now I have this done and these two little bits of hair. I'm going to click on this again, go edit, copy, edit, paste in place, and then I'm just going to move this thing over here, and I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to rotate it. I think what I did was this. I clicked on, and this is something else maybe I should bring out. There's a rotate tool and a reflect tool, and if I click on the tear out, I can bring both the rotate tool and the reflect tool out. And if I double click on the reflect tool, I get the reflect dialog box, and I can reflect things horizontally or vertically, and I get to preview it, and I reflected it vertically, and you could see that's exactly what I wanted it to do. Now I can go copy, and I've now got a duplicate so that I can take one of these guys, this one right here, I believe, and I can, well, actually, I'm not going to do it that way. Anyway, there is my brow. Now, what I might want to do is I might want to just rotate that brow around a little bit like this so that the brow kind of looks like that. There we go. And there you have his hair starting to come into place. This guy right here, I'm going to drag that, and I'm going to put that right there. And then this thing here is a little bit on the big side. So what I'm going to do with that is, let's go back again. Hold on. Let me just select it. Select it. And let's free transform this thing a little bit, making it smaller, holding down the shift key, and I'm going to make it smaller. Maybe about like that's good. Okay? Because again, you can adjust the size of these things. You don't have to keep them the same size. You can adjust them to make your character. There's my little character. His eye and his glasses are coming along. Now here's his ear. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to come over here and double click on it. And as you can see, it reflected this thing vertically, and it's in perfect position. I'm going to hit OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to place it so that it's in the position of his ear. And it's got to be a little bit bigger. So again, I'm going to transform this thing, holding the shift key down to make it a little bit bigger. Click on the corner, hold the shift key, and bring it down to about like that. There's his ear. Now, I think his ear is actually hitting right where I want it to be. Now, the other thing is there is a character missing here. So I'm going to go back to the glyphs panel. I'm going to see if I can locate that character. It's here somewhere. Let's see what it is, where it is. It is, what was I using for that? Here it is. I think that was what I used right there. So I'm going to click on this and like that, and then I'm going to double click on this one. There we go. There we go. That's it. Okay. And type create outlines. Create outlines. There we go. And then I'm going to rotate that. I can get this out here. I'm going to rotate this thing around like this. Okay, so it becomes like the side of his ear here. And actually, now that I think about it, let me delete that. I think what I did, let me go into here, and that's the one that I used, but let me change that. Let's go back and see what it looks like regular. And it goes, no, it's right there. That's the one that I think I used. I think I used the regular size, the smaller one. So I'm going to double click on that. And yeah, I think that's more like it. And then I'm just going to type, I'm going to go type create outlines. And I'm going to rotate this thing around like this. Okay. And I'll bring it down closer to where I'm going to use it for its final rotation. And I'm going to rotate this thing. All right. Rotate this like that. And then I'm just going to resize it. Holding the shift key down, I'm going to resize this thing until it's more or less hiding. What I did was I hid it behind the glasses, okay? And then I brought it up here like this, and then I have my glass. And actually, I got to move it in just a tiny bit, like that. There we go. And there's my glasses. See how I got a glass going here? And there's his ear, all right? And then I need this guy right here, and that is this piece. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to bring that over like this, bring it into there. There's that piece, okay? And as you can see, the face is beginning to come together. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on this, edit, copy, edit, paste in place, okay? And then I'm going to move it down, move it into position, which I think's like that. Now, what I can do is I can reflect it, or I can free transform it, or I can rotate it. And here's something interesting. If you take a look, I'm going to zoom in so that you can see this. You zoom in on this. Okay, if I rotate this thing, you see the little blue, there's a little blue crosshair. That is where the rotation is going to take place. But if I want, I can come over here carefully, click on that, and hold the mouse down, and I can drag that over to here. And when I do that and then try to rotate it, instead of rotating it, I actually end up skewing it. And I get something like that, which is very cool. Okay, so there's something else that you could do with this. And I'm going to go edit, paste. And now I've got my other one. Now this one here is going to be made smaller because it's going to go for there. So I'm going to hold down this corner, shift, and I'm going to make it smaller. Whoops, let me go hold down the shift key and make this thing smaller. I think probably about like that's good. There we go. And then I'm going to move it into position like right about there. And once again, rotate it. But this time, what I'm going to do is grab this little center rotation element and bring it over to there. And then I'm going to grab the other end, and I'm just going to swing it down like that. And let's go back to my view menu, fit artboard and window. And there we have my man's character. Look at when I hide my layer, you can see where we're going with this. Can you see my little guy's face starting to come together? So there's my face starting to come together. Now what I want to do is I want to finish a couple of elements, like that element here and that element here, that element, this element, and the shoulder. Once I get that done, then I'll show you how to reflect it over and make it happen on the other side. All right? So again, I'm going to take this guy because this is his cheek. I'm going to take his cheek and put his cheek in position here, and I have to rotate that slightly. So I'm going to rotate that just a little tiny bit. I think probably like that's pretty good. And maybe move it down just a bit like that and move it in just a bit. That's pretty good. There we go. And then I'm going to copy it. Let's go. Wait a minute. Yeah. Edit, copy, and edit, paste. And there it is. I'm going to drag it over to here. And this guy is going to be made smaller because I need it smaller for here. And I'm going to click, hold the shift key down, and I'm going to make it smaller. I got to grab the corner properly. There we go. Make it down till it's about like that. Let's see. That's probably good. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. And then maybe I'm going to rotate it a little bit. All right. Maybe I'm just going to rotate this a little bit like that. Yeah. And then we move it up. Let's put it in its position, which is right about there. And I still have to rotate it some more because it's not quite right. But if I drag that little center, oops, I didn't get it. Control Z. If I grab that little center point of rotation carefully and drag it right up, didn't get it again. All right, you know what? I'm not going to do it. There, I rotated. That's just fine. That's just fine. All right, so I have everything I need. Let's go edit, paste in place. There we go. And I got another one of these guys. I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to rotate this into position. I'll click that little center point of rotation and bring it up to here. And there's his shoulder. And I'll bring his shoulder out, and there is his shoulder. So almost everything that I'm going to use, although this guy right here could be rotated a little tiny bit better. Let's see if I can get, oh boy, that's a tough one. Let me zoom in on it. Let me zoom in on it. That's probably what I got to do. There we go. So rotate it. I got to grab that little center of rotation there like this carefully. bring it up to here. And what I want to do really is I want to bring that up until it's like that. That's much better. All right, there we go. Now, one other thing, let's go to the view menu and let's fit artboard and window. I have this guy right here. I'm going to go back into my glyphs panel, and I think this time I'm going to go to, let's see, I don't have anything finer than that. So I think there we go. Let me try that. All right, so I'm going to take my type tool, click here, and then I'm going to double click on that. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so type, create outlines. Remember, all of these things are going to be turned into outlines. This is what I'm going to use to create this line for his neck. And I'm going to put that like that. And then I'm going to zoom in on this thing so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to rotate that guy again. And I'm going to drag that little center of rotation to here. Take this thing and I'm going to drag that thing over to here like this. And there I have my line for his neck. Okay, so everything, I think, no, one more thing, and that's this guy right here. So I'm going to rotate that around. So it's like that. There we go. Something like that. And I'm going to bring this into position. And it's a little bit on the big side. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to scale it down. Hold down the Shift key. Scale this thing down. I get that corner. There we go. Now scale it down till it's about that big. There we go. And then what I want to do with this is I just want to move it into position. That's probably pretty good right there. There. Good. Okay. Now, one thing I can do, now that I've turned this thing into a graphic shape, what I can do is I can use the direct selection tool and I can come and click on that graphic shape. And as you can see, it's a graphic shape. It's basically just a rectangle of sorts, and it has anchor points, 4 anchor points. Now, with the direct selection tool, what I can do is I can click on those anchor points, hold the Shift key down, and select 2 of them. And now what I can do is, these are not selected, but these are. What I can do is I can grab that little part of the line right between those 2 anchor points, and I can drag this thing up a little bit, making it a little bit shorter, like I just did. And now let's go to the view menu. Let's go fit artboard and window. And this is what I have so far. This is my face. So what I want to do with this now is I want to flip it right over to here to create the other side of the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down. I'm going to select all of this. Okay, and you can see I marqueed select the whole thing except that piece right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my let's go to my reflect tool, open up my reflect tool, and you can see it automatically reflects this thing. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to copy it. All right, so I'm not going to just reflect it, I'm going to copy it as well. So I'm going to click, and it's reflected across the vertical axis. So I'm going to hit copy, and there. Now I got my duplicate. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, use the right mouse, and I'm just going to move this thing over until it's on the other side in position, right about there. And actually, I think I got to come in a little bit. Oop, wrong one. I'm using the arrow keys. There we go. That's my... There it is. It's pretty much in the proper position. A couple of little things have to be adjusted on it, but it's pretty good. We're pretty close. Now, for instance, this line here is too big, so what I would do is a similar thing where I'd come in here, I'd zoom in here, and I would get my direct selection tool, and I would click on that anchor point, hold the Shift key down, click on that anchor point. Now, what I'm going to do in this case is just use the left arrow key, and I'm just going to move that line over until it disappears into the frame of the glass, right about like that. And now if I go View, Fit, Artboard, and Window, I can come to my layers panel. Let's hide my background layer and let's see my work so far. I mean, you can see he's coming along pretty good. He's actually beginning to look like a man's face. And as a matter of fact, he's beginning to look pretty much like the face that I have here. So let's finish this thing off so that I can move on to the next assignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by grabbing his nose, and I'm going to bring his nose into position right about like this. And it looks to me like it's just a little bit too small. So once again, I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to get the free transform tool. I'm going to click on one of these little corners, hold the shift key down, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, just about like that. It's good. Okay, and then I'm just going to move it into position, which would be about the center of the face, something like that. And there you go. That's pretty good. Actually, maybe went over a little too big. And I'm thinking maybe this might be a little bit bigger than it should be. But hey, you know what? It's close enough. We're good. Now I'm going to do his hair. I might as well do that. So I'm going to take this guy right here. I'm going to rotate it around until it's more or less like, you know, that. Then I'm going to bring it in here like this and put it on that guide right about like that. Get the free transform tool right here and hold down the shift key again. Grab the corner. This time I'm going to hold the shift key and the alter option key. And what that's going to do is that's going to make that thing get bigger from the center out. And I'm going to bring it out to about right there. And there is his first piece of hair. I'm going to do this. Edit copy. Edit paste in place. And then I'm just going to use my down arrow to bring it down to there. And then I'm going to, again, get my free transform tool, grab the corner carefully, hold the shift key and the alter option key. I'm saying alter option because on my computer it's alt. I believe if you're on a Mac it's option. All right, so then I'm just going to bring this thing out until it reaches that point right there. There we go. And maybe what I'll do is I'll bring it down just a tiny bit, all right, and maybe over a little bit, just about like that's good, all right. And again, I'm not concerned whether this is exactly the way the other one is. I'm mostly concerned that you get the general idea. This piece goes on the top. I'm just going to bring that into position, but it's way too big. So again, get the free transform tool, and I'm just going to hold one of the corners down and hold the shift key. And I'm just going to bring this thing down until it's about like that size right there. And then I'm just going to move it into position using the arrow keys. Okay? And we're pretty much done. The only thing I got to do is a little bit of work down by the mouth. This guy here comes down. This is his chin. And what I do with that is I'm going to come in and reflect it along the vertical axis just like that. Hit OK. I don't need to copy it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to make it a little bit bigger. Hold the shift key down and make this thing just a little bit bigger. Like that. That's probably pretty good. Let's see. Move it into position and we'll see. Bring it up like that. Yeah, it's pretty close actually. I think I could go with that. That's not bad. Maybe move it down just a tiny bit. Let's see. And like that is good. Let's see how that works. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that'll be all right. This guy here maybe needs to rotate slightly. Let's rotate it just a tiny little bit. Now what I want to do is skew it actually. So I'm going to grab the centerpiece, move it up there, and then I'm just going to skew it by dragging it up just a tiny bit like that. And that's good. Okay, there we have that. Now the triangle piece I used here. So I'm going to copy this. Edit, copy. Edit, paste in place, and then I'm going to bring this thing down here and I'm going to rotate it just like that, right? And then what I'm going to do is, since it's a little bit smaller to make the top of this tie, once I get it where I want it, which it's not straight, but that's okay, I don't mind. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller, holding the shift key down and making it just a tiny bit smaller, maybe like that's good. And then I'm just going to put it into position up here under his chin. So he has a tie. There we have that. And then I got this guy right here, and this guy's going to come into here. And again, what I'm going to do is free transform this thing, holding down the shift key, and I'm just going to make it bigger, like this. And then I'm going to bring it into position. Bring this into position like that. Okay. And the way I hid the bottom of this thing, there we go, there's his tie. The way I hid the bottom of this thing was I just created, for this, I cheated a little bit, and I created a rectangle that came to about here, and I filled it full of white with no stroke. There we go. And there's my guy. I just have to do his mouth, all right? And for his mouth, I basically used one of these. But you know what? Let me go back into my glyphs here, and let me go to my heavy. Let me go to my bold. Yeah, and let me get one of my bold ones. Let me get a bold one for his mouth. So I'm going to find one of my little brackets here. Where would you be? Let's see. You're here somewhere. Where are you? Where are you? Why am I? There it is, right there. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let me get that out here. There we have it. I think that's it. And or is there a longer one? I think that's it, actually. I think that's the only one I got. The only option I got. Yep, I guess that's the one that I used. Guess so. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is type, create outlines. It's always important to create outlines on these shapes so that you can work with them a lot easier. And then I'm just going to free transform this thing to make it a mouth, which means I'm going to hold the shift key down, and I'm just going to make this thing a little bit bigger. And actually, now that I look at this, let me hit delete, because actually, I think probably this was the one that I used. I used this guy. I did use that guy. Let's go edit, copy. Let's go edit, paste in place, and let me just move it down to about where the mouth would be, which would be somewhere in here. Okay, and then let's free transform that guy, make it bigger, and hold down the shift key, and let's make this thing like that. And I think actually yeah, that's what I did. Hit OK. Yeah, and I think it's a little bit too big, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Let's make this thing just a little bit smaller. Maybe something like that is probably pretty. That's close enough. Again, like I say, I'm not really crazy about making this thing look exactly like the original. I'm trying to make it look as much like the original as I can, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. There we go. So there's his mouth, and I got a couple of little things left. So this guy here, edit. Actually, I don't have to. I just edit, paste. Yeah, so I have that one right there. I am going to rotate it slightly like this. Okay, and let's bring it over here. Let's see whether that is about the right size. I'm going to reflect it. There we go, and hit OK. And then I'm going to rotate it. I got to rotate it like this, like that. There we go. Yeah, pretty good. And then I'm just going to move it into position. Bring it about like that. And maybe it needs to be just a tiny bit smaller. Just a bit smaller. Just a bit, not a lot. Boom. There we go. And yeah, that'll work. Okay, so now I'm left with 3 things. Actually, 4 things. I got the little things on the tie, and I got these little things right here. Go back to the glyph panel again. In here, they have those characters somewhere. As you can see, I basically used pretty much all glyphs here. Okay, now there's that little character that I'm looking for. There's one of them at least, right? So what I'm going to do is, again, get the type, click, and then I'm just going to double click, and I got my little character right there. And again, what I'm going to do is type, create outlines, all right? And I'm just going to take this guy right here and bring it down and place it right there, because really, that thing just sits right there. And then I'm going to go edit, copy, edit, paste in place. And then I'm just going to move this one that I just copied up and move it over like that. And then I'm just going to rotate the thing around like this, just like that. And there you go. And then I'm just going to move it up and over. And there is my entire face done. That's the face. The whole face is done. The only thing I got to do is put a couple of little asterisks in here for stars. Let's see, where's my asterisk? I don't know whether that's on my keyboard or whether that's in my, yeah, I don't see it on my keyboard. So I guess it's, no, there it is. I got it. Okay, type, click, and hit the asterisk mark right there. And then what I'm going to do is type, create outlines. All right. Bring this back. And I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to put one of them in there. I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to make the thing the right size. I'm not going to bother putting them all in there. I think you get the general idea. Shift. I'm going to bring this thing down. Whoops. Come on, you. Hold down the Shift key and bring it down smaller. That's probably good right there. Okay. Yeah. And I would just basically move this in, and I'd put them all over his tie. Okay, so again, I'm not going to bother doing it. You get the general idea. Now, there's one thing left here, and that is to set the word Bodoni, set the name Bodoni. So what I did with this is, this is a lot of fun. So I'm going to zoom in to show you this. I'm going to start off by typing Bodoni, B-O-D-O-N-I, Bodoni. And I'm going to make the Bodoni smaller. So I'm going to, again, hold the Shift key down, and I'm going to make this thing smaller, like about that size right there is fine. And I'm going to move it down. And if I'm not mistaken, for this one, what I did was I used the Bodoni MT poster compressed. There we go, poster compressed. And then what I did was I also opened up the tracking a little bit. Let's see, I think I gave it 125. Was it more than that? 150 is good. I think 150 is good. Okay, and then what I want to do with this is I want to curve that along the line, which is kind of a cool effect. But to do that, what I'm going to do is go to the Object menu. All right, the text has to be selected. Now, it doesn't matter whether this is done live text or whether I outline it. It can be either way. It doesn't matter, okay? Just so that you know. I'm going to make sure it's selected, go to Object, and I want to go to Envelope Distort, Make with Warp, and I get a bunch of different envelopes here, okay? But the one that I want is, I think the one I want is Flag. Yeah, I want Flag. But what I did was I set it's set for horizontal, but I have it set to 50. What I did was I went the other direction. I went in that direction right there. And I think I probably went around, maybe around 50. Yeah, actually, I think that's probably pretty good. Hit OK. And there is my final bit of the puzzle. And if I come back here to my Layers panel and hide the layer and go View, Fit, Artboard, and Window, there is the little character. Let me go to the guide, go to View Guides, and let me clear the guides. There is my character, okay? So the assignment is for you to do a character. There is the character, very similar to the one that I originally did. That's what you're going to do for your assignment. I tried to do this in a way that was the simplest way that you could go about doing this. So if you follow along, I mean, you can create something like this. And I don't say you have to create one that looks like mine, but as you can see, you shouldn't have any trouble coming up with something. You should be able to come up with something creatively. And, you know, if you really put a little effort into it, you can come up with something quite clever. So that's ultimately what I'm looking for you to do, okay? That is your assignment for the week. What I'm about to do now is move on to the assessment, okay? Now it's 8:13. I'm going to very quickly talk about the assessment instructions very quickly, and then I'm going to try to do as much of the assessment as I possibly can, all right? So in order to do that, I got to move quick. So let's go back into here, and let's go to assessment. Here we go. Okay, so prompt. For this assessment, you will be setting a page of type to some very detailed specifications. Here's the text, okay? Now, I've clicked here, and this is what I get. This is the text. This is what you're going to use to build your sample. Okay, so that's important for you to know. It just downloaded, it automatically is a doc file. It opens up and there's your text. Using InDesign, follow the specifications you are given below exactly. You are not being graded on any type of creativity for this assessment. Very important. Only how well you understand the terminology, typesetting tools, and follow the specifications. That's what makes this difficult. You have to follow these instructions. I'm going to try to do the whole thing for you in the time remaining, and at least I'll do most of it so that you get the general idea. Finding the fonts in Typekit and referring to the typograph terms, set up your document in the following way. You must use InDesign. The size is 8.5 by 11 with a portrait orientation. You're going to give it a 0.5 inch margin all the way around. The columns, there are going to be 2 default columns. We're going to set up a baseline grid set to the top of the page with 14-point increments recommended to set to 50% view. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to do that much, okay? So here's Adobe InDesign, and by the way, this is what the entire project is going to end up looking like, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, New Document. I'm going to create a new document, and I'm going to come into here where it says the preset details. It's going to be 8.5 by 11, orientation portrait, 8.5 by 11, and orientation portrait. I'm going to have only one page, okay? And I'm going to have 2 columns. This is, you don't have to worry about that. Just, it's 8.5 inches by 11 inches. Orientation is portrait. Number of pages 1, columns 2, and the column gutter is the default column gutter. I have 0.1, and that's what it is, okay? You can put margins in this thing because, remember, the margins have to be 0.5. So you're going to click and you're going to put in 0.5 IN for the margins. Make sure that the make all settings are selected so that they all end up being 0.5. Okay? So those are your instructions. 8.5 by 11, 1 page, 2 columns, 0.1 inch, 0.5 inch margins all the way around. Got it? Hit create. And there is the document that you're going to create. If you look at my other one, you can see it's basically the same as that. Okay, so that's the first part of it. Now let's go back in and see what's next. All right, now you're going to set a baseline grid. Set to the top of the page, 14 increments recommended to set to 50% view. All right, let's go in and do that. I'm doing this in steps so that you can get the sense of what to do and how to do it. Baseline grid. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the Edit menu, and you're going to go down to Preferences. So it's Edit Preferences, and then you're going to go over to where it says Grid. So Edit, right there at the top, Edit, Preferences, Grids. Now here is your baseline grid, right here, baseline grid. You're going to have it start at 0.5 of an inch relative to the top of the page, increment every 14 points. 14 points. And the threshold view is set to 50%. Okay, let's go back in and look. Right here, set to the top of the page, 14-point increments recommended to set at 50% view. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so start at the top, 0.5 inch, relative to top of the page, increment 14-point, threshold view, 50%. That's how you set up your baseline grid. Not a big deal. Hit OK, and now you have your baseline grid set up. Now what's the next thing? So what you're going to do here is you're going to do a headline, and the headline is going to be Arial narrow bold 61 point tracking 10 center aligned. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to start formatting some text. So how do you do that? Let me just go in here and let me create a text frame. So here's your type tool. This is your type tool right here. Now, most important thing for you to understand is, and by the way, this is your 1/2 of an inch margin. You don't want to go outside of that 1/2 of an inch margin. Everything that you want to do, you want to keep within that margin. Okay, that purpley line there, that's your margin. This is your trim area. So this area, you don't want to put nothing in. So by getting your text tool, what you can do is you can click and you can drag a frame out, just like that. Drag a frame out. Now I have a frame and I have a text cursor in there, which means basically this is going to accept text. That's important for you to understand. I'm all ready to put some text into it. So here's what I do. Go up to my Art of Typesetting, and I'm going to click on this first line right there because that's my headline, and I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to come over here and click again and go Control-V to paste it in. Now, unfortunately, what happens is I got this set to wingdings, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to change it to Arial. Okay, and what I want is Arial narrow. First of all, I got to select it, and then I'm going to select it and change it to Arial, and I want it to be Arial narrow. Okay, or is it Arial narrow bold? I'm sorry, Arial narrow bold. There's my Arial narrow bold. Now the size of this is right here. The size of it is going to be 61 points. So I'm going to type 61 point. And then what it wants is it wants tracking. Let's see where the tracking is. The tracking is right here. That's the tracking. And what it wants, you notice right away how that got bigger. You want to set the tracking to 10. Again, this is important. You're following the directions. 10. Look, here's what it's telling you. Let me show you. Okay. Headline, Arial narrow bold, 61 point, tracking 10. And then you're going to center align it. You're following these directions, okay? Now, I've got this done. I just have not got it centered aligned. So what I'm going to do is, you see how over here on the top, you got these two little icons? This is the character formatting. This is the paragraph formatting. To center align this, you need to click on the paragraph formatting. And right now, it's sent to left align. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to click on center align, and this thing goes to the center. Although I don't, oh, I know why. There's an extra character in there, I'll bet you. I-N-G. Let me see. G. Nope. G. All right, let me see if the frame is doing it. No, that's it. That's it. No, it doesn't seem to be center aligned to me. Visually, it's a little off, so I'm going to move it over a little bit, just like that. Because, again, I don't know. It just seems to be not center aligning. It is, but it just doesn't seem to be doing what it should do. But anyway, that's what you want to do, is you want to set this up. Now, here's the important thing. What I did was I have my character panel and I have my paragraph panel. And again, you'll find all this under Window, okay? You'll go down to Type and Tables, and you'll see there's the character and there's the paragraph. That's how they are brought out. Now, if I want to do my styles, if I go to my Type panel, I can come down to Character Styles and Paragraph Styles. That's where I find these over here. All right? Now, this guy here, this guy right here, the Art of Typesetting, I'm going to create a style around that. I'm going to select the whole thing, come to my paragraph style, and the default is set to basic paragraph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from basic paragraph. I'm going to create a style called title. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to come over to where it says new paragraph style, click on that, and I get my paragraph style dialog box. Right now, this is called paragraph style 1. That's not the name I want. I want to call this headline or title, something like that. I'm going to call it headline, H-E-A-D-L-I-N-E, headline, okay? Now, here's the important thing. The style settings are being picked up from the instructions that I put into this. That's what they are. Look at right here. So it's Arial. It's Arial plus narrow bold, size 61 point, tracking 10 point, align center. with auto leading and all this other stuff, which I haven't set. But the important thing for you to understand is that it is setting this style to be Arial, narrow, bold, size 61 point, tracking 10 point, aligned center, which is exactly what I was instructed to put into this headline. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I don't need this. Now I have a headline, and there is my, hit cancel, there is my headline with that style set up. So if I come in here and click on this, you can see it automatically attaches itself to that style. Okay? So that's the first thing. Let me drag this frame up a little bit. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to create the area for my copy. That's what I need to do next. So I'm going to do that first by getting my type tool, right? And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to very carefully click, and I'm going to drag out a frame all the way down and all the way to that margin area. I went a little far on it, so let me adjust that. I want to get it right to that margin. There we go. Actually, I didn't hit it again. Right. Right there. There we go. Okay. So now I have a frame. There's my frame. Okay. Now I need 2 frames because I need enough space for 2 columns. Look at my finished one. Okay. This is where I'm heading. This is what I'm going to do. So again, I got 1 frame. I'm going to go edit, copy. This is the easiest way to do it. Edit, paste in place. Okay, so I've actually copied and pasted the frame in position. And now all I'm doing is using my right arrow key on my keyboard, and I'm walking that frame over until it hits that margin area on the right. And I'm almost there. There I am. So now I have 2 frames. 1, 2. 2 frames. Now what I want to do is I want to link these 2 frames together. These 2 frames have to be a continuation from one to the other. The way to do that is by coming over here and clicking on this first frame. There's a little square here. That's the import. And you see that little square right there? Not the corner one, but the one sitting just above the corner one. That's the outport. To link these frames together, I start off by clicking and loading my cursor. Can you see how my cursor changed? And then I'm going to come up here. You see the link? Now I'm going to do it again. So I select this frame. I come over top of that little square using my regular selection tool. Come over to square, click. That loads the cursor like that. When I come over to the next frame, it looks like those 2 chain links, and I click, and now those 2 frames are linked. And if I go to the view menu, let's go to structure. Is it where is it? Extras. Let's see, where is it? Text threads. There we go. There's my text thread. See that blue line that runs from one to the other? That indicates that those 2 frames are linked together. The purpose of linking those 2 frames together is so that when I go up into my type, which is right here, when I go into my type, and when I select all of my type, I'm going to get all this type. I'm going to select everything. I'm not going to select by the UI Graphic Arts department, but I'm going to start here, click, and I'm just going to drag up all the way to the top right there. And then I'm going to go copy, okay? And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to click in my first frame, and I'm going to go Control V or paste. And there it is. It's all there. I'm going to go Control A because, again, I brought the thing in. Using that glyphs panel. So what I'm going to do is the body copy has to be Times New Roman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my character styles, and I'm going to change it from Wingdings. I'm going to change it to Times New Roman. Boom. Okay, now I'm just going to deselect this for a second so you can see what we got so far. So basically what we got so far is we got the headline up here, and we have all the copy in here. Now, the important thing for you to understand is in this unset format, the way I have it, the text is overset. The reason it's overset is because the way it's set up right now, there's too much text, and it's basically running over. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to do, let me go back to the assessment here, is I'm going to come down here. Let me drag this up a little bit. create and apply the following paragraph styles. So I'm showing you this because I'm going to make these paragraph styles and apply them. I'm showing you how to do this because this is what you got to do. So we're going to be making paragraph styles. The first one is for body copy, and it's going to be Times New Roman regular, 10/14, left align, adding 1, 2, 5 inch space after paragraphs, and then we're going to align all lines to the baseline grid. Okay, so don't get upset over this. Let me show you how to do it. It's not that terribly difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by clicking on the very first paragraph, okay? And the reason I'm doing this is because, well, actually, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that. I think what I'm going to do is Control-Z. Hold on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and do it this way. I'm going to come over here and click on this, and I'm going to go New Paragraph Style. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this Body Copy, B-O-D-Y-C-O-P-Y, Body Copy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Basic Character Formatting. So the instructions call for this to be Times New Roman regular. So I'm going to change it from Wingdings to Times New Roman regular. Okay? So body copy, it's going to be Times New Roman regular. I find that under Basic Character Formats. Times New Roman regular. Now, it's telling me it wants me to have this 10/14. What that means, essentially, 10 is the size, 14 is the leading. 10/14 means 10 point over 14 points of leading. So I'm going to go, it's 12, I'm going to go 10, the wrong way, sorry, 10, and I'm going to make this 14, 13, 14. So body copy is going to be Times New Roman regular 10/14. Okay, it's going to now need to be left aligned, and it's going to have 1, 2, 5 inch space after paragraph. So let's go into advanced character formatting. This is not where I want to be. So let me go down to, hold on, let's see here. Let's go to, where are we at? Paragraph, let's see, indents and spacing. There we go, sorry, indents and spacing. Okay, so indents and spacing is the next, and what you're going to do is, it's currently set to left aligned. What we're going to do is we're going to send it to center aligned. Now, you've got left indent, first line indent, space before, right indent, last line indent, space after. Now, the instructions tell you that it's left aligned and it's 0.125 inch spaced after paragraphs. So you're going to go to space after, and you're going to click it until it goes to 125. I clicked it twice for that. Align to grid, all lines is going to align to grid, okay, because it's saying align to baseline grid. Align all lines to baseline grid. So there's your instructions. Go back to general, body copy, basic, that's it. Body copy, Times New Roman under basic, Times New Roman regular 10/14. And then I'm going to come down to indents and spacing, alignment center, left align, nothing, first align, nothing, space before, nothing, nothing, space after, 0.125, and then align to grid, all lines. Okay? Now, I'm going to come down here and hit OK. And there is my body copy style. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select not all the text, but I'm going to select the text. You see where it says font styles right here? Let me zoom in and show you. Right at that point, it says font styles. Okay, let's go view, fit, artboard, and window, or fit page and window. I'm going to select the type from the word text all the way over to here, and I'm going to apply body copy to it. And there is my body copy style aligned to it, okay? And for some reason, I think I made a mistake. Let's go to body copy, and let's go to basic, let's see, indents and spacing, advanced character formats, That's the spacing. Alignment. Oh no, I got the wrong thing. That's left aligned. But what did they ask for? It's left aligned. Left align. Yeah, left align. So I made a mistake. I changed it from center left align to center align. That's not what they wanted. I made a mistake. So left align. Be careful. Make it left align and hit OK. There we go. Okay, that's correct now. Now we're back in shape. All right, so we have left align, and we have 0.25 after. Now there's a problem with this. These lines right here, I'm going to reset these to basic paragraph. Okay, these three little lines right there, basic paragraph. And I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, those two right there. Okay, basic paragraph. All right, that's what you should be doing, okay? And that's going to be your body copy, your body copy. This is going to get body copy, this, and then this over here. Okay, what does that leave us with? That leaves us with the subheads and the drop cap. So what you're going to do here is you're going to create a drop cap. So this is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, let me go back to this. So we're going to go to drop caps. So body copy, Times New Roman, regular, 10/14, left align, 2.5 inches aligned to baseline grid. Drop cap, same as body copy, only it's going to set to 3 lines, applied to the first paragraph only. So what does that mean? That means that they want you to put a drop cap in the first paragraph. So let me zoom in the first paragraph so you can see this. Okay, whoops, too far. View, zoom out. And view, zoom out. Geez, I really came in. View, fit page and window. Let me try it again. Try one more time. There we go. That's going to have to do it. And let me move it over so you can see this. All right, so here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is this. We're going to come in here. And we're going to select the first paragraph. Select the first paragraph. And then what I'm going to do is go to the paragraph panel. And what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for, what do we got here? There we go. This is the drop cap number of lines. And what I want is set the drop cap on just this paragraph for 3. 1, 2, 3. And there you have it. Check it out. It's just that simple. And if I delete, or if I deselect that, there is your drop cap. So what I want to do now is I want to select this paragraph again. Okay, select this paragraph. And what I'm going to do is create a new paragraph style. And I'm going to call it drop cap. D-R-O-P-C-A-P. Drop cap. And hit OK. And now I close this and I have a drop cap. So there's my drop cap style. Okay, now I only need that drop cap style for that first paragraph. I'm not applying it anywhere else. Okay, just need it for that one style, for that one paragraph. But you should make a style for this. Now the other thing that you could do here is you could drag these around. So in other words, the first one in my mind should be the headline, because that's the one that's up here. The body copy should be next, or actually the drop cap should be next, because the drop cap is the first one that you use, and then the body copy. So you can drag these things around, and you can see that this thing is pretty well organized. I got my headline, and the settings for that headline is all in there. So if I were to click on this, okay, and if I were to go to basic paragraph, can you see how it removed that style? But if I come in here and click headline, it puts it back on. Okay, if I come over here and click on this thing here, and if I go body copy, it throws the drop cap away. But when I come back and click on drop cap, it brings it right back. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. All right, so we're actually moving along pretty good. Now the next one I'm going to do is my subheads. Okay, so here's my subheads. Okay, subheadlines: Arial, narrow, bold, 14 point, tracking 10, center alignment, 0.0625 inch space below, and do not align to the baseline grid. Okay, now, I'm reading this so that you kind of get a sense of where these things are as I do them. All right, because you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to do this again. All right, so again, I'm going to get this out of here, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to find one of my headlines, or subheads, I'm sorry. So I'm going to select my subhead. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my character style. That's the first thing I'm going to deal with. I could also do this over here, just so that you know. Let me do it over here so I can show you. It can be done up here, or it could be done over here. Here's my character, here's my palette. So what is it, or paragraph? So here's what it tells me that it needs for that subheadline: Arial, narrow, bold. So I'm going to come in here, go to Arial, and I'm going to choose narrow, bold. So there is Arial, narrow, bold. Okay? And what it is, it's 14 points. So let's go 12, 13, 14 point. 14 point. Okay? And then what it tells you is tracking 10. So I'm going to go up and tracking 10. So there it is. Arial, narrow, bold, 14, tracking 10. Now the paragraph, it tells me the paragraph, it needs to be center aligned. So right now it's left aligned. So I'm going to center align it. There it is. It's now center aligned. Why they want it this way, I have no idea. I don't think it looks real good, but they are asking for these instructions, so I'm giving them to you. I'm showing you how to do them. It's important for you to know this stuff. So there you go. It's center aligned. Now the next thing it's asking for is it needs it to have a space before, 0.125 space before. So there's your space after. There's your space before. I'm going to click 125, and there is my setting of 125 before 625, right? Yeah, it's a 0.0625. And then finally, you see where it says here, do not align to baseline grid? Make sure that you do not align it to baseline grid. If I clicked on this, it would align it to the baseline grid. Make sure that it is set to do not align to baseline grid. All right. Now, that is what you need to do to make that setting. So let's turn this into a paragraph style. As you see, what it does is it affects the basic paragraph. So what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm going to create a new paragraph style. Now, it has the settings that I'm working with so far registering here. There it is. Arial, narrow, bold, size 14 point, tracking 10, alignment center, space before, 0625 IN. There you go. Okay? So I'm going to name this subhead. S-U-B-H-E-A-D. Subhead. And I'm going to hit OK. And now, I don't know why this keeps popping up. It's annoying. There's my subhead. Now, what I might want to do with this is I might want to drag this layer. I might want to drag that down to the bottom. But let's test this subhead, and let's see if that subhead works. So I have another subhead right here. Basic adjustments. That's also going to be a subhead. So there it is. That's what the subhead looks like. If I click on this, I should get that look. And I do. Look at that. Perfect, right? Beautiful, huh? Okay, so we're moving right along. That's all there is to do here. That's all there is to do. It's not that difficult. There's one more thing left, and that's my bullet. So here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to try to select this. One of the problems is I got some text that's overset here. So I'm going to open this up a little bit and see how far down it goes. Wow, that goes down quite a bit. Okay, so there's my text. Now here's the important thing for you to understand. My bullet list goes from font styles down to the end. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag to select all of that copy, just to font styles, all of that copy right there. Okay, that's what I want. This is going to be my bulleted list. Now, the important thing to understand is that this is supposed to be the same size as your body copy. So if I come into my paragraph style, and if I start off by clicking body copy, it sets this to the size body copy, which is exactly what I wanted to do. But I want to also add to this. I want to create a new style. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to first of all go to the object menu or type menu. Let me see here. What do we have? Yeah, bullets and numbering, and I'm going to apply bullets. Boom. Now I have my bullets. Now right away what happens to the body copy is I get that little plus sign right there. And the reason that plus sign is there is because I'm adding to that style. But that's okay because I'm going to fix this in a minute by changing it to another style. Okay, and then no space after paragraphs on this. Okay, So what we're going to do with this is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this and go new paragraph style. Now this one here goes, look, left indent, 0.25, first line indent, list bulleted. So in other words, it is basically picking this up. I'm going to call this list, L-I-S-T. We don't even have to say bulleted list. We just say list. That'll be perfectly fine. And I hit OK. Now, watch what happened. What happened is body copy has now reverted back to being okay. And we have a new style called list. Now, one of the things it tells me to do here is to have no space after paragraph. So what I'm going to do is, just for the heck of it, I'm going to double click on list, open it up, and I'm going to go into indents and spacing. And you see where it says space after 0.125? Well, according to the specification here, it says it doesn't want any space. So I'm going to remove that space from the list one, just from the list one. And I do that by clicking twice to 0. And then I hit OK, and you can see it's all gone. Now let's see if that copy is fitting on the page. There it is. It's fitting on the page. Look at that. Okay? So now I can come in here and I can take this frame back up to here. And if I go View, Fit, Page, and Window, there is my all of my copy. I'm almost done. There's two very subtle little things that I want to do here. I got to create one more style, and I want to fix my bulleted list. Now, it doesn't ask you to do this, but I want to do this because I want this to look good. And right now, this is not looking all that good. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Look. If I zoom in here on this, take a look at, see where my bullet is? My bullet's way over there. And you see where my copy is? It's way over here. I got this huge gap. I got a little tiny bullet right there. And I got this huge gap there. Well, that just isn't right. Now, it doesn't tell you to fix this. But I'm going to show you how to fix this because, to be totally honest with you, you should do things right. And in other words, this would be the right thing to do. So I'm going to show you how to fix this. The first thing that you're going to do with this is you're going to select all the copy. So again, get your type tool, come in here, and you're going to select all of that copy. Just the bulleted list copy, nothing more than that. Just the bulleted list copy. Forget about this other stuff. We're dealing with the bulleted list copy right now. To fix this, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Type menu, and you're going to bring the Tabs panel out. There is your Tabs panel. Now, there's a default pair of settings sitting here. That little triangle that you see there at the top, that indicates where that little bullet is. That indicates where that copy is. Now, all I want to do is I don't want to move that copy, so I'm basically going to leave that one alone. What I want to do, though, is I want to move that bullet in a little bit because I don't like its positioning. To do that, I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to carefully click on that top triangle, and I'm going to just slowly move it over. Look at what's happening as I move it over. You can see a line. Can you see that black line? That black line is a guide showing me where my bullet is going. And I think I'm going to bring my bullet into about right there. Now look at that. See all the bullets moved? That's all there is to it. And now if I deselect this thing, you'll see that your bullets look a whole heck of a lot better than they did a moment ago. And that wasn't all that difficult to do. Okay? So I'd like to see you do that because that is really good formatting. Now, we have one thing left to do here, and that is to create a style and apply it to the first word only for each of my bulleted lists. Now, what they're talking about, it's actually not just one word. It's actually font styles, font size, leading, tracking, kerning, so on and so forth, okay? Alignment, baseline grid, paragraph separations, line indents, drop caps. All of these things are going to get that bulleted list. All of those leading in words are going to get this style. So what I'm going to do to create this style, and this is an inline style. The difference between an inline style and a paragraph style is a paragraph style works for an entire paragraph, and inline style works for just words or letters. So instead of making a paragraph style for this one, I'm going to show you how to make a character style with this one. Okay? Basically, the major difference between a character style and a paragraph style, and here's your character panel, and as you can see, we haven't made a single character style yet. I'm going to close this because we're done with it. We haven't made a single character style yet. However, we've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really nice paragraph styles. So really what we want to do is we want to try our hand at making a character style. And this is a perfect example of where you would make a character style. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the font styles. That's the first set of words that I'm going to use this style on. Now, the instruction says you're going to use Times New Roman semi-bold. So that's Times New Roman semi-bold. And I don't have semi-bold on mine, so I'm going to go to bold simply because I don't have semi-bold. So I'm going to go to bold on mine, okay, which if you have the same problem, I have no problem accepting that. That's it. Now watch when I deselect. That's all it does, is it just creates a slightly bolder two front words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reselect this thing, and then I'm going to go into my character styles. I'm going to create a new character style, and I'm going to call it first word, FIRSTWORD, and then maybe BULLETS, bullets. And then I'm going to hit let's see here. First word bullets, yeah, and hit OK. Now I should have it. That should be it. There it is, first word bullets. Now if I click on font size, if I click and select font size, and if I click on first word bullets, you can see it applies that style. And then I'm just going to go down, and I'm going to apply that style to each one of my first words. Tracking. Apply my first word bullet. Kerning. First word bullet. Alignment. First word bullet. Paragraph separations. I missed one. Baseline grid. Almost missed one because I caught it. First word. Come down to paragraph styles. First word bullet. And then I'm just going to keep going down until I reach the end. Almost there. Click on this. And then first word bullet. And then we have drop caps. First word bullet. And bulleted list. And then first word bullets. And that should do it. Let's go view, fit page and window. That's it. There you go. We've got it all done. The only thing that's left to do, I'm going to drag this line down a little bit. Let's see if I can get that line to even out. Nah, that's not a good idea at all. Yeah, bring that back. Okay, now there's one little thing left. First of all, let's go to the view menu and let's go screen mode preview so we can actually preview this. That's what your page is going to look like. And it looks very neat and very orderly. That's the whole point. Everything that you see there, you should have no trouble doing. There's one thing left to do with this, and then I'm done. And that is, we have what's known as a byline right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that byline into here. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to try to get my cursor in there, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, let me go to the view menu, and let's go to screen mode normal. And I think my problem with this is I'm going to have to open this frame up. Okay, so I'm going to click in there, click here, and hit enter. All right, and yeah, it's center, and I'm going to change the alignment on this to left align. Okay, and then I'm going to read the specifications for the byline. Now you'll see at the bottom of this it says byline. Now what it tells you it wants you to do is it wants you to set the byline to Times New Roman italic 8 points. So let's go into character here, or here, doesn't matter, either way. I'll go back up to here, okay? And I'm going to go to Times New Roman, and I believe it's italic. And they said that they want this to be 8 points, 8 points, okay? And I am going to go into the art of typography, and I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and by the IU Graphic Arts Department, copy, okay? and then come in here and Control V, paste it in there, and yeah, there it is. But the problem is, let's see what we got going on here. I think the problem we have is, let's go backspace. Yeah, Control V. All right, let's see. I think it's the spacing. There it is. There it is right there. There it is. Byline is right there. There we go. Okay, let me zoom in so you can see it. See? By the IU Graphic Arts Department. And maybe what we want to do with this is, what did they say? Did they give you a 8 point? No, it doesn't give it to you 9. So it's 8/9. Let's try 8/10. There we go. 8/11. That's good. 8/11. I made it 8/11 because I didn't think it was too close. Now let's go to the view menu. Let's fit page and window. Let's take one final look at this. Go to the view menu and go to screen mode and go to preview. And right there is your piece, The Art of Typesetting by the IU Graphic Arts Department. And there is your copy. And your copy has a 3-line drop cap. It has 2 subheads, and it has a bulleted list where we've actually gone in and we've modified the first words of each line, and we've also modified our bullet positioning. There is your piece. There is your project. If you have any problems, I'm here tomorrow night for our multi-session. I'll be more than happy to help you. I hope my demonstration was clear enough. So good luck to everybody, and hopefully I'll see somebody tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.